Federal judges are sounding the alarm. They warn that former President Trump's aggressive deportation policies could have dire consequences. These policies, they argue, threaten the very fabric of American justice. Judges are deeply concerned about the erosion of due process. They fear that innocent people, including American citizens, could be swept up in mass deportations. These warnings are not hyperbole. They come from respected jurists across the country. These judges see firsthand the potential for injustice. They witness the human cost of these policies every day. Their voices are a clarion call for Americans to pay attention. The Trump administration, however, remains defiant. It defends its policies as necessary to secure the border and protect national security. But critics argue that these justifications ring hollow. They point to a pattern of disregard for due process and basic human rights. The stage is set for a high-stakes legal battle. This battle will determine the fate of millions of immigrants. It will also shape the very definition of American citizenship. The outcome of this struggle will have profound implications for generations to come. Due process is a cornerstone of American law. It is enshrined in the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. Due process means that everyone is entitled to certain fundamental rights. These rights protect individuals from arbitrary and unjust government action. This includes the right to a fair hearing, the right to an attorney, and the right to present evidence in one's defense. However, judges warn that these rights are being trampled in the rush to deport immigrants. They point to cases where individuals are being denied access to lawyers. They highlight instances where immigration courts are operating like deportation mills, rubber-stamping removal orders without proper consideration of the facts. The consequences of these due process violations can be devastating. Individuals are being separated from their families and loved ones. Many are being sent back to countries where they face persecution or even death. The erosion of due process not only harms immigrants, it undermines the rule of law for all Americans. When the government is allowed to disregard the rights of one group, it sets a dangerous precedent. It creates a climate of fear and uncertainty. It erodes trust in our institutions. It is a slippery slope that can lead to tyranny. The human cost of these policies is staggering. Take the case of Sering Cisse, a legal permanent resident who was detained for months. Cisse was held without a chance to challenge his detention. His only crime? A minor drug offense. His case is a chilling example of how easily lives can be upended. Then there's Daniel Lozano Camargo. He was deported despite a legal settlement granting him residency. His case highlights the arbitrary nature of these deportations. It underscores the lack of accountability in the system. Imagine the despair of being ripped away from your home, your family, your life. These are not isolated incidents. They represent a systemic failure to protect the rights of immigrants. In Massachusetts, immigrants were deported to third countries. They were sent to places where they had no ties and faced uncertain futures. Their stories are a stark reminder of the human cost of these policies. These are more than just statistics. These are real people with real lives. These are mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, friends and neighbors. Their stories deserve to be heard. Their plights should weigh heavily on the conscience of our nation. The Trump administration remains steadfast in its defense of these policies. Officials argue that they are simply enforcing the law. They claim they are protecting American jobs and keeping communities safe. They point to the dangers posed by illegal immigration. Stephen Miller, a key architect of these policies, has advocated for even more extreme measures. He has suggested suspending habeas corpus, a fundamental legal principle that protects against unlawful detention. Such a move would be unprecedented in modern American history. To bolster its case, the administration has launched a multi-million-dollar ad campaign. The campaign urges undocumented immigrants to self-deport. Critics argue that this campaign is nothing more than a scare tactic. They say it is designed to instill fear and discourage immigrants from exercising their legal rights. The administration's rhetoric is often inflammatory and divisive. It paints immigrants as criminals and threats to national security. This rhetoric has fueled a climate of fear and intolerance across the country. It has also made it more difficult to have a reasoned and fact-based debate about immigration. Section 5. Judicial Pushback, Guardians of the Constitution. The judiciary has emerged as a crucial bulwark against these policies. Judges from across the political spectrum have voiced their concerns. They have issued rulings that have slowed down or halted deportations. They have reminded the administration that it is not above the law. The Supreme Court, in a rare unanimous decision, halted deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. This law, a relic of World War II, was being used to detain and deport immigrants without due process. The court's ruling was a significant setback for the administration. Judge Ana Reyes, in a scathing rebuke of the administration's policies, highlighted the Fifth Amendment's due process guarantee. She wrote, "The Constitution protects us all. It does not discriminate based on immigration status." Her words serve as a powerful reminder of the judiciary's role in upholding the rights of all. Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson, a Reagan appointee, warned of the risks posed by these policies to American citizens. He noted that the government's broad authority to detain and deport immigrants could easily be abused. His words carry particular weight coming from a judge appointed by a president known for his tough stance on immigration. Section 6. Beyond Our Borders, International Repercussions. The impact of these policies extends far beyond U.S. borders. Countries in Latin America are struggling to cope with the influx of deportees. Many of these individuals have been living in the United States for years, if not decades. They have built lives and families in their adopted country. Colombian President Petro initially resisted accepting mass deportations from the United States. However, he reversed his decision under intense pressure from the Trump administration. The administration threatened Colombia with tariffs and sanctions if it did not cooperate. This episode highlights the economic and political leverage that the United States wields over its neighbors. Honduran President Castro attempted to rally regional opposition to the mass deportations. He argued that these policies were destabilizing the region and causing unnecessary hardship. However, his efforts met with limited success. Many Central American countries are heavily dependent on U.S. aid and investment. They are reluctant to antagonize the Trump administration. The mass deportations are also having a negative impact on Latin American economies. Remittances, money sent back home by immigrants working in the United States, are a vital source of income for many families in the region. The decline in remittances due to deportations is putting a strain on households and communities. Section 7. The Human Cost. Families torn asunder. The human cost of these policies is immeasurable. Families are being torn apart. Children are being separated from their parents. Communities are being shattered. The trauma inflicted by these policies will reverberate for generations. Imagine the anguish of a child who comes home from school to find their parents gone, detained by immigration authorities. Picture the despair of a mother separated from her children, facing deportation to a country she barely remembers. These are the human faces of these policies. The administration argues that it is merely enforcing the law, but critics counter that these laws are inhumane and unjust. They point out that the vast majority of undocumented immigrants are not criminals. They are hardworking people who are simply trying to build a better life for themselves and their families. The Trump administration's policies have created a climate of fear and uncertainty in immigrant communities. Parents are afraid to send their children to school. They are afraid to go to work. They are afraid to leave their homes. This fear is paralyzing and debilitating. It is a stain on the soul of our nation. Section 8. A Nation Divided, the Political Battleground. The issue of immigration has long been a divisive one in American politics. The Trump administration's policies have further inflamed this debate. They have deepened the partisan divide and made it even more difficult to find common ground. Supporters of the administration's policies argue that they are necessary to secure the border and protect national security. They point to the dangers posed by illegal immigration, including drug trafficking, human smuggling, and terrorism. They believe that the administration is right to take a hard line against those who enter the country illegally. Opponents of these policies argue that they are cruel, inhumane, and counterproductive. They argue that building a wall and deporting millions of people is not the answer. They believe that the focus should be on comprehensive immigration reform that provides a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who are already here. The debate over immigration is often framed in stark, black and white terms, but the reality is much more nuanced and complex. There are legitimate concerns on both sides of the issue. Finding a solution that addresses these concerns while upholding American values will require compromise and understanding. Section 9. Safeguarding Our Freedoms, a Call to Action. The fight over immigration is not just about immigrants, it is about the soul of America. It is about who we are as a nation and what we stand for. It is about whether we will uphold the values of fairness, equality, and due process that have always defined our country. The erosion of due process for immigrants should concern all Americans. When the rights of one group are trampled, the rights of all are at risk. We must remember that immigrants are not the other. They are our neighbors, our colleagues, and our friends. They are an integral part of the fabric of American society. We must hold our elected officials accountable for their actions. We must demand that they uphold the Constitution and protect the rights of all. We must speak out against injustice and intolerance. We must not remain silent in the face of tyranny. The future of our democracy depends on it.